Antonio Conte, since then, has absolutely raged at the club from top to bottom almost, at his players. Um, it's, it's the kind of interview that feels like he's not at the club anymore, yet he still is. It's the international break now. It's an incredible rant. I've never seen anything like it. And I think, just to recap some of the things that he said in criticism of Tottenham, the players don't want to play under pressure or under stress. The fault is only ever of the club or every manager that takes the hot seat. It's never of the players themselves. He can't contain his feelings anymore, but what's the point in fighting when you're looking at 7th or 8th in the table? Some really sort of scathing comments from him, but he's kind of got a point, hasn't he? My question to you, though, is, Dave, why has he started saying this now? Do you think this is him pretty much saying, I don't want to be here anymore? If not, why not just walk?
Yeah, I think there's. I definitely think there's more going on behind the scenes than what's apparent. I think. We did question him coming into this job, didn't we? Especially on the short-term contract that he's on. I don't know whether he was realistic in thinking he could turn this around as quickly as he probably thought he would. That's another thing for me. I just don't think he cares anymore. I think that's the thing. That's one thing that's evident, and it's transparent from this interview, which was it was shocking, really. But you can see a lot of the things that he does say. I fully agree. I think Tottenham they have so much work to just change the identity of that team, really. I actually think Conte has done quite well with what he's got and what he's managed to do. I think there's a lot of people saying... I can see why people are saying they want to play better football. I think they have played really good football at times, but there's been results. It's similar, actually, to Liverpool throughout the season. Liverpool at times have had some good games, and then all of a sudden they'll have a couple of really out of character sort of games where you just think, like the Bournemouth game, when they were obviously on that high. Tottenham have been guilty of it themselves plenty of times this season, and I think that's where I think the standards that Conte set at previous teams, obviously the likes of Chelsea, and obviously the success that he's had, the things that he's won, I think Tottenham fans set the standard and set that bar at a lot higher than where they are at the minute. I think that's where the disappointment comes from. However, I just don't think their squad is good enough to be doing better than 4th, around 3rd max, really. When you look at the teams that are in there, I think you've obviously got United who are improving, Liverpool who are, arguably underachieving for some of the players that they've got. I actually think Tottenham are not having a bad season, considering the only thing you can obviously talk about is I'm going out of the Champions League with a whimper. They've definitely lacked character at pivotal times throughout the season. That's one thing I think is really frustrating. I think Tottenham fans just want to see a bit of fight in them, because I feel like they've lacked that at times.
He said that as well. He said the players just don't want to fight for the club, and he also took aim at Daniel Levy as well, saying, 20 years of the same management of the club, and they wonder why nothing's changed. It doesn't matter what manager you put in the hot seat. If things don't change at Tottenham, then nothing will change. So it reminds me a little bit of the Ralph Rangnick era at Manchester United, where he was not as vocally as that, but he was criticising all levels of the club almost, wasn't he, on his way out, because he had nothing to lose, and exposing the flaws in the system, the lack of ambition as well. And I think that's a big thing for Tottenham at the minute. Since they got to the Champions League final, it's been nothing but backward step after backward step. And every time they've signed a good player, I don't feel like it's been enough for them to take that next step. So for every Richarlison they've signed, they've also had Davinson Sanchez as well. So they're not progressing and they're not improving. And there's a lot of that down to structure of the club and scouting and things like that, I imagine, as well. And there's talk of Pochettino coming back to the role. I'm not sure that's a great idea either. It's tough to be a Spurs fan at the minute, because it looks like there's no focus for them. And again, if they get in the Champions League and do somehow miraculously stay in 4th place, They were already in the Champions League a couple of weeks ago. Then they blew the chance. They didn't even try and beat Milan. So what do they want? Where's their ambition? Where's their level?
You've got to question a lot of things from top to bottom at that club. Let's not forget obviously the managers they've appointed over the last few years. Let's talk about Harry Kane. Obviously, they decided to keep him. There's been murmurs around him wanting to leave for the last maybe 3 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
We thought he was going to leave and go to Man City. Now, I was thinking earlier on that, can you remember when Liverpool almost went and won the league, didn't they? Was it that next summer they sold Philip Coutinho for 140 million to Barcelona?
Yeah, it might have been actually, yeah.
And he was arguably their best player at that time.
What, you thinking maybe take some investment for the club and pull it into players like Liverpool
exactly.
did? I mean, you say that, but then that assumes that they've got the recruitment set up right. And their recruitment record lately is so hit and miss. So
Liverpool
would you trust them with
that's the difference between the two clubs. Liverpool's recruitment over the last few years has been unbelievable. Some of the players they've identified and brought in. Tottenham, it's completely the opposite. So
hit and miss. Yeah, it is. It's a bit of a scattergun approach as well. I mean, the amount of fullbacks they've signed in the last 2 seasons as well, none of them have been good enough. And I don't know how many of the signings have been his, though. Conte must be frustrated at having signings thrusted upon him as well.
Well, that's what I mean. Because I kind of see, for me, if a player didn't want to be there at the club anymore, I would, as a United fan, I want him to go, because you want players who want to be there. I don't have any doubts that Harry Kane will always put his 100% into playing for Tottenham. But really, Tottenham should be looking further ahead, further down the line now. Harry Kane's, coming in, is he nearly 30 now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they should have sold him 2 or 3 years
because
ago.
They're not. They want. I mean, it's coming out in the media today. They want 100 million for him. They're not going to get 100 million for him.
No. They're hoping for 100 million. I think if Harry Kane forces his hand, he'll lower that price, because I don't think he'll be there next season. There's talks of him going to Manchester United. I would definitely love Harry Kane at Manchester United, but I wouldn't want 100 million going out for him, would you? It's too much.
If they were clever about it, they could have got more than 100 million from him. Man City offered 100, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, his ambition is still strong, and I think he still thought there was time to turn it around at Tottenham with Conte in charge and the summer they had. And I mean, Miles said in the pod last week that we kind of all predicted Tottenham would actually make a challenge for the top 3, maybe even put a dent in the title race of some kind. Now that seems laughable, doesn't it? So there's small margins still between success and failure, but they're doing okay in the league. Like, on paper, they look like they're doing okay. So where's the desire to see that through? Where's the desire to push them through to that next stage of the Champions League whilst they're still in the competition? All of that kind of does fall on the players. And I know Conte's got a responsibility to motivate them. And I understand if his motivation's low at the minute, but the players have got to perform for him. There's so much riding on it for them.
It's more...
They've got a season as a failure now, whatever happens, I think.
I know, yeah, and I think it's hard to take because of the manner of the way that they obviously dropped 2 points in this game. It's, for me, they weren't resilient enough to hold on. But let's not forget, what did you think to the penalty incident? Because I didn't think that was a penalty.
No, but they left themselves exposed to things like that happening. They invited pressure for those final 10 minutes, and it was unnecessary. I mean, even when Theo Walcott scored, it was out of nowhere. The ball fell to him, and it was easy. And Spurs should have been seeing that game out at 3-1. They were coasting, they were comfortable. But I think mentally they were coasting as well, and it showed. They were so fragile in those final stages that you knew as soon as Walcott scored, Southampton had a very good chance of getting back into it, because there was no momentum in Tottenham's favour, and they looked like they'd mentally down tools as well. So I kind of get why Conte is so angry right now, because the game was in their hands and they just blew it. And again, top 4 now looks like a dream, doesn't it? Because they're going to slide, and there's teams better than them as well, just below them.
Yeah, I just think it's the complacency that's infuriating. I think for the team and Conte, obviously, and because at 3-1 up, as soon as Perisic scored that goal, you thought they'll coast now. That's it. Tottenham are renowned for being especially this season, quite solid at times. You know, in certain games, there's been in big games have really performed, looked really good.
Yeah.
So I just think they just want a bit of consistency, and they're not getting it, are they?